Kafoury and McDougall, and also representing the Oregon Progressive Party. I think you need to reverse the questions that you're asking to us and ask yourselves the question of what's the harm in having this hearing with the judge every year where he has the power to ask questions. And an appeal, I mean, everyone's already said this, but an appeal can take years and years. And I don't understand why the first step wouldn't be seeking a clarification from the judge of how these hearings are going to go and what role he would have. It just doesn't make sense to go and take all the resources of the city's attorney's office and file an appeal and go that route without at first trying to resolve it at a lower level. That's point number one. Point number two is what is the basic problem with this appeal? And I think most of the citizens' eyes is that it looks like the police and the police union are driving the ship in terms of policy and not the city council. And we've seen this over and over again, even when juries come together like they did a few weeks ago and rendered the largest verdict for excessive force in the history of this city in the Cox case. Even you, Mayor Hales, said you disagreed with the jury. And there were a video showing 6 punches and 4 tases within a matter of seconds on that, and that caused a great amount of public outrage. And I think that this is not the right time for the city council to be taking a step back at all in this agreement. I think it's time for us to say, let's get the judge, and I think the key will be that we'll have a better chance for the DOJ to step in as a party if things aren't being implemented, if there's a public hearing with Judge Simon where he's getting to ask questions. I think that's the reality of how it all worked out.
Mr. Kafoury, doesn't the DOJ automatically have that ability?
They do, but I think if there's a public hearing where the judge is asking questions, I think the DOJ is going to feel a lot more public pressure to step in if they don't think things are being done than if those aren't happening. And I don't see, again, back to the council, what the rationale is for appealing this. I mean, is it a waste of resources to have the hearing?
So, Mr. Kafoury, it sounds like you're saying that the purpose of having the hearing will be to put pressure on DOJ to say that we're not complying with the agreement, even if that's not really what they believe.
Well, but that's the benefit of a public hearing, is to allow everyone an opportunity to be there and watch what's happening. And as is, I don't see, again, any rationale why we should not have such a hearing. And I think it would put pressure. The DOJ has got their agreement here. Let's look at this, in hindsight. They're going to be looking at other cities. They're going to be looking to enforce this in other cities. They're not going to have this at the forefront of their radar. And having a public hearing with a judge asking the tough questions about things, I think would be very helpful for them having to refocus on the Portland case over and over again.
But actually, don't you think that the DOJ will actually be more involved on a week-to-week, month-to-month basis in overseeing this agreement than the judge? Don't you think the judge, if he's coming in once every 6 months or a year, kind of parachuting in and perhaps tempted to say things or do things based on minimal information?
I think that the DOJ, I think the final agreement was pretty weak in terms of police reform. And I think a lot of the citizens feel that way too. And I think that's where the lack of community support for the DOJ is coming from. And that's why I think having a neutral, somebody who's not involved in any of this and has no public pressure and is not elected and doesn't have to take campaign contributions, having that person who has become intimately knowledgeable in all of this stuff over the last few years, having Judge Simon play a key role in this is essential. And again, I don't see a reason why we shouldn't have it.
If the agreement wasn't good enough, don't you think Judge Simon should have thrown it out?
Yes, I advocated for that. But he went ahead and implemented it, and he had a very minor requirement, an annual hearing, so we can discuss and see how it's going, that the public could be at. And I don't see any reason why we shouldn't have that. And going through years and years of appeals and having city attorneys fight this out is crazy.
Mr. Kafoury, can you think of a situation in the relationship between the federal government and a local government where a lawsuit is filed, a settlement is reached, and the parties stay in court for an indefinite period after that?
I can't think of something off the top of my head. I know they've done this, I think, in 4 other cities where they've had implementation agreements and the judge has been the ultimate.
That's because there was a special master appointed. I'm saying, can you think of any instance outside of even a matter like this, in the relationship between the federal government, its judiciary, and a local government, where you go to court and then you stay in court?
But that
seems bizarre to me.
Okay,
So,
well, I think,
practice
Mayor,
or
we have not
cities.
gotten police reform done right in decades. And I think the fact that DOJ came in is a statement to that. And the fact that they want to stay involved, it is helpful. And I think having this case remain as a case, and as I understand it, it's basically an abatement, but if things aren't being implemented, it could be reactivated at any point. I think that's a beautiful thing. It's exactly how it should be. I can't think of another example.
I can't either.
And school desegregation, there are many cases that were like what you're describing. I grew up in Boston in the late 60s and early 70s, and that was exactly how it went.
Okay, thank you.